Hi, today we're going to take a look at how to build and deploy our very first Android application built with Xamarin and C# right from Visual Studio. I'm here inside of Visual Studio 2015. I'm going to select New Project. This is going to open the New Project dialog, and when you have Xamarin installed, you'll see some new Android, iOS, and cross-platform templates. I'm going to select Android, Single View App, and hit OK. This is going to set up my entire Android application and everything that I need to get started to deploy that application. We're brought directly into the Getting Started with Xamarin guide, and then in the Solution Explorer we can see every single file that we need that's inside of our Android application. I'm just going to go ahead and double tap our main activity. This is the starting point of our application, and it's all in C# right inside of Visual Studio. From finding the button to registering for a click event, everything is here inside of our main activity. Now let's actually start and talk about how you're going to deploy your application. You can deploy your application to an emulator or to a physical device. And let me walk you through the toolbar and where the actual emulators are going to exist. When you want to debug your application, everything is here inside the debug menu. When I tap on the little arrow drop down, we can see all of our emulators that are installed. And when you installed Xamarin, you got a few different emulator options. Here we can see that I have a KitKat and Marshmallow emulator and this Xamarin_Android emulator. There's a mix here of Hyper-V emulators that are powered by the Visual Studio emulators for Android and some additional Google emulators that are ARM-based. These are much slower, so we usually recommend installing and running the Hyper-V enabled emulators from Microsoft. Now, those were installed when you installed Visual Studio, but just to make sure, simply hit on Windows and say Visual Studio Android. And you'll see the Visual Studio emulator for Android. When you tap on that, it's going to bring up a desktop application. And this is where you're going to manage all of the emulators that you want to install and run. Here we can see I have a Marshmallow and a KitKat one that correspond to what's in the dropdown. Now to get to additional options, we can see that there's an Android toolbar right beside it. Here we can manage our Google emulators, get to the Android SDK, the command prompt, device logs, and additional device monitoring tools. Now, all I need to do to get started and actually deploy this application is hit debug. I've already launched the Marshmallow emulator here from the Hyper-V menu, and if you didn't have it launched already, when you hit deploy, it'll launch it automatically. So we're going to give it a few seconds here to build up our application completely on my Windows machine and start a debug session right here on the Hyper-V emulator. And there we go. Our app has launched, and as we can see, we have Hello World, and as we click, we get additional increases in the click count. Now let's say you wanted to actually put this on a device. Well, you put your device into developer mode, and when you do that and have the proper ADB or Android Debug Bridge drivers installed, all you have to do is plug in your device. I'm going to plug in my Nexus 6 here right into my Surface Book. And when you do that, we'll see that our debug button has updated to show our Motorola Nexus 6, which is running Android 5.1. If I tap on that and hit deploy, it'll start a debug session right on our Nexus 6 device. And it's just that easy to start building Android applications inside of Visual Studio with Xamarin.